Hi, thank you for joining us here today.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's begin. Would you mind stating your name for me, please?
My name is Julio Alvarado.
Thank you, Julio. Now, can you tell me where you were born?
I was born in South America in a country called Uruguay.
Uruguay. Nice. How long did you live there for?
Um, for about 26 years.
26 years? Okay. Do you have any siblings?
No.
Okay. Could you tell me a little bit more about maybe your family life, about your mom and your dad?
Okay. I guess that, let me see where to start. Um, my grandmother was from Russia, so she came to the country to Uruguay early in the century, around the 1900s. And I guess that they were escaping the civil unrest up there in Russia, because that was when the time of the last Tsar in Russia. So
Wow, that's
they
crazy.
came to Uruguay. She used to tell me that the trip took 3 months, because they have to take a train from Russia to England, and then take the ship. And apparently, a lot of people got sick, a lot of people died, and there were a lot of couples that got separated then, and their spouses, they were going to the port most of every day, waiting for the one that got left behind. And some of them, they came, and some of them, you know they never knew any more about him, because probably they died in one of the stops in the hospitals or something. So it was an endeavor. It was an epic.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more than an endeavor or a trip or something. It's just. And then, well, they got married. Some of my grandmother's sisters went to Argentina, um, and some other ones stayed there. So, they married one of the when they came from Russia, they built a colony, because there was a lot of people coming. And then my grandmother met one of the hacendados there, and they married, and they have my mother and my uncle. They grew up. My mother stayed in Uruguay. My uncle went to Australia. My mother stayed in Uruguay, and I emigrated to the States. So in a matter of a couple of generations there, you have people spread all over the place.
Oh, wow. So, were you the first, technically, I guess, to come to the U.S.?
Yes.
And how old were you? And do you remember what year it was?
It was 1982. It was March of 1982, and I was 26 years old.
Oh, wow. How were your feelings when you were about to arrive or coming here?
Well, when I left Uruguay, when I had my foot on the first step of the ladder to board the plane, I knew that there was no way back. So it's either do or die. So,
Was it scary or were you nervous?
of course, I mean, it was a lot of uncertainty there. First thing was the language, you know, uh, complete different system. But also, I have my high hopes that it would be different. It
Hmm.
would be a place that you could shine for what you were, and not for who you know or who your friends were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Before you came to the U.S., what's the highest level of education you received,
Well, I
or
got
form of
my
education?
bachelor's in science degree up there, and I did like about a couple of years of medical school,
Hmm.
and but it became too onerous. The books were terribly expensive. School is free though, but the books is what kills you. So I had to, just quit studying.
Hmm. Well, wow, that sounds hard. Did when you arrived here, what did you do on your first day of arriving here to the
Well,
U.S.?
my father was living here in the States, so he's the one that did all the paperwork, and it took about a year between they started and I got the okay to come here. Uh, so my first day, I wasn't all, you know, everything was very clean, everything was very organized. The traffic was more organized, either believe it or not. It wasn't like it is now. Um, so, for the first couple of weeks, you just get to, you know, meet every place and everything is new.
Can I take you back on that comment when you said traffic wasn't always like how it was today?
Oh,
How
no.
would you describe the differences?
There was probably about two-thirds less cars than nowadays.
Oh, wow.
Before, if you get out of your house on the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, uh, you had three cars in front of you and three cars behind you, and that's all that you have for miles and miles on the freeway.
Oh, wow, yeah.
You know, I guess that the name freeway meant something then. Today it's just a big parking lot.
Yeah. A big parking lot, that's funny.
Yeah.
So, when you arrived, you were adjusting to everything. Where was your dad staying at when he was living
Well,
here? Did you
he, he
go
had
live with
a
him?
he had a house in Cerritos, and so I lived there for a year or so until I, you know, got my job, and
What
you know,
what was your job? What was your first job?
my first job I was working in a injection mold injection plastic factory. They did the sleeves for the Pentel pens,
Oh,
the
wow.
black ones.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Had you done that job before?
No.
No. What typically what were jobs you would take in Uruguay?
Well, in Uruguay, I was working in a institution, a governmental institution uh, of pre-university studies, and I was there in charge of the labs. So that means that when the teachers got to do some kind of presentation to the students, be in physics or chemistry, I put all the kits together of the things that they were going to need, and I had to prepare for the next day.
Oh, okay. So very different
Yeah,
than what you had to do when you got here. Um, so you had talked about a lot of the cultural differences from the food, the language, the work.
yeah, language. The language was kind of hard.
How long would you say it took for you to adjust to things, including the language?
Started getting adjusted like about 6 months down the road, because when I was studying, I had to take French and English classes, and English was absolutely my worst subject.
Mm-hmm.
French, I speak it and read it and write it as I did Spanish. But English, yeah, and, well, vocabulary and things like that. But in order how to put them together, it was kind of a. I don't think that I ever passed an English test. And
Uh,
Out of all the countries in the world, I had to come to the States. But 6 months into it, I just, got the hold of it and, start communicating.
communicating. What do you what do you feel was your biggest motivation to come here?
Well, my biggest motivation to come here is just to try to do some more that I was able or was, you know, or I was, I could do in my country, you know. Uh, and there is mostly it's immigrants, so they have a European system. And when I was growing up, it was the first generation of people, were the original people. They came with all their customs and all the bad habits and good habits, you know.
Like how so? What would be like some good habits, and what are some bad habits that you could
Well,
think of?
good habits is that they were very helpful. Bad habits is that they were always behind the curtain looking to see what's happening in the street or what's happening across the way, and, you know, just people get into your business,
Yeah.
without being called. So, I mean, and there is always who you know instead of what you know or what you can do. So the ones that have, the better positioned friends, they got the best jobs, and then, so I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
I know that I was worth a lot more than what I was doing in there. And, even if you have your intentions, you have you know, your will, power, you have everything, but if you don't have the opportunity, uh, you don't get nowhere. So,
Exactly.
and that's what I think that I was coming to this country, for the opportunities.
For the opportunity.
Hmm.
Um, could you sorry, I keep bringing you back and forth. Could you describe a little bit I want to know the differences, kind of what would be your usual day in Uruguay compared to what would be your usual day here in the US?
Well, of course, you get up and go to work, and it's not necessarily the job that you like to do or what you are passionate about. It's just a job. Salary is not that good. Uh, the bosses are more pressing, and they think that they own you
Mm-hmm.
instead of you being working with them. Um, and that's it. You get to lunch, you complete your 8 hours, and come back to work. You know, I remember that at some point in my life, I had two full-time jobs, so um, I wasn't I wasn't sleeping that much. So I could hold on to that for about 6 months. After that, I just got exhausted, and I have to quit one of them. And even if I make extra money, but it wasn't enough to make any dent to the situation or anything. It was just almost the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a maybe a sad life, being encroached to be in a place that you maybe don't want to be, or just because you need to substantiate the food on your table.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk a little bit about you. What what are you? Do you would you consider yourself religious?
Wow, that's a tricky question. In South America, religion is very powerful, and uh, I went to Catholic school. All my grammar school was done at Catholic school. Even my kindergarten, was done I remember there was a monastery, very dark, musty smell, you know, kind of, you feel afraid in there, you know. You were scared instead of going to school because,
It sounds scary.
yeah, I think that the the school where Harry Potter went, it was a lot,
Nicer.
it was a lot nicer than what we had to.
Would you say they were very strict?
Yeah, they were very strict. Uh, I guess that I saw the last of the wooden ruler on your fingers a couple of times. Thank God I never had it, but you know, I have seen done into other couple of students. So
Well, that's pretty intense.
it is.
Um, let's see. What type of food would they feed at school, or what types of traditions would you do during holidays?
Okay, and there at school you have to provide your own food. So if you don't take, there is a little bit of some pastries and things to buy. But you know, besides that, there is no, you know, real food
Oh, they
like
don't.
it is here now.
Oh
There's
no,
not.
they don't give you guys like lunch, like a set
No,
lunch.
no,
Not even pizza.
no. There was the occasional day when we had movies, you know, a couple of movies, and we get, you know, some pastries and a soda or something like that, and you know, that was a holiday. You know, it was a feast for us. But besides that, you know,
And what about holidays? Going on holidays. What about like a Halloween,
we
Thanksgiving,
we don't
Christmas?
have Halloween or Thanksgiving in there.
Oh no.
Maybe we don't have anything to give thanks about.
How about Christmas?
Christmas. Christmas is like everything. You had dinner with your family, and then you know there was, you know, a party in here. Usually they close the street, and the whole block comes out, and you know they mingle and gather, and you know have fun, and you know usually it's within the reach of your house. So
Mhm.
you know pretty much everybody
In the community?
in the community. Yeah.
Okay. How about your parents' background of religion? Were they religious?
Religious. Yes, they were religious. That's why they put me in a Catholic school. Uh, but you know, it's a very. I mean, since I remember, they were asking for donations to build a brick wall, and then 20 years after that, they still asking for donations to build the same brick wall. So I don't know. They must have a big. I didn't see it because you know they were trying to build the wall on the back of the school, and it wasn't that big. So I don't know why, but I guess that they, as long as they can get away with it, they still doing it. You know.
Yeah. What are some of the best memories you have in Uruguay before you left? And what are some bad ones as well? Or even if it's just one pinpointed moment that you
Well,
could
I
go
used
back.
to also. Um, I play guitar and I sing, so I was part of a governmental group that went to different states and performed, you know, some country folk song and dancing. So I was one of the musicians and singers, and I had a lot of fun. You know, we travel by bus. We get a hotel room. We do our presentations, and working 2 weekends a month on that gig, I made the most amount of the same amount of money that I did working 30 days in some other job. So
Oh, so you were living the dream.
I don't know if you call a dream. Yes, it was.
Mm.
Because, I mean, you can perform, you sing. You sing because you feel it, not because it's a work, it's a job. So that's one of my best memories. Worst memories, one of my girlfriends died of cancer. I mean, she was my girlfriend. She was a friend, he was a girl, that's why she was a girlfriend.
Okay.
uh, but, she was very young. She was 16 years old, and, you know, it took a couple of years, for her, being prostrated in bed and things like that. And that was very sad.
Oh, that's terrible. Um, well, now moving back to present day, you being in the U.S., um, how were you getting around? What was your form of transportation when you first arrived
Well, for
here?
the first year, I was using the bus. So I remember that in order to get to work at 4:30 in the afternoon, I had to take the first bus by 1 o'clock by my house, so I could be there on time for work at 4:30. So I had to take 3 buses.
Wow. And what time would you get off of work?
I got off work at 6 in the morning.
Oh, man.
So the way back, I had only to take 2 buses, and I was by my house around 8:30 in the morning.
Oh, man, that sucks. Would you have to go to work the next day?
Of course, a job is an everyday thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That sounds pretty intense. How was your boss?
Well, after I get that job that it was pretty far away. I was living in Cerritos, and I was working in Inglewood, and traveling that by bus is not. But anyway, what I was doing, I was listening to people speak English, and I was, trying to look at their mouth to see when the word ended up and the next one started, and so I was listening, pronunciation, things like that. So that's what I was doing on my trips, back and forth. Um, so
Did you feel like you had to make any personal changes within yourself to adapt to the new country?
well, not to myself, but to the way I was doing things. This is a complete different system. It's more organized. It's more, you know, with all the flaws and everything that he had, it was pretty well organized and defined. When something starts and when something, ended up. But yeah, I mean, um,
Like, did you do you feel like you had to dress differently? Um, maybe.
it's not about the dressing. It's about your whole conduct, your whole concept of of the new place.
The culture shock.
I mean, people behave differently. Things are set up differently. So you have to deal with all those changes and get into incorporate yourself to society, because that's what the thing is. I mean, you come to the States with all different set of cultures, values, uh, you know mostly the same, but it's a little bit different. Everything is different. The language is different. um, you know um, you have to uh, I mean, restaurants, everything is different in here. So you have to make it to change a little bit to adapt in order to fit and to be a productive member of society.
Would you feel it was easy to adapt though?
No, it wasn't easy to adapt.
No.
No way. Mostly because if you are like on your house and you stick your head out the door and look up one side of the block and you don't see a living person, you just see maybe a couple of cars parked or not, and you look to the opposite side of the block and it's exactly the same thing. You don't see people much, and that's what it makes you feel lonely, because you mostly don't know the language, uh, but you know there is not even people to talk to. you know
Yeah. So, after that, did you have any? Where was the second place you moved to after your father's? And how long did you maintain the job you are working at currently?
Oh, after that, I got a job closer to home. I work at the warehouse of Colton Pianos and Organs, and I was doing refinishing of the pianos in there, some fixing, and just getting the new shipments, organizing them, putting them in there. And actually, I, when I started working in there, I was the last one hired. So uh, I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, well, just the bathrooms are a mess, so just go ahead and clean it up and things like that. And I said, okay, fine. So I start, cleaning the bathrooms. And all of a sudden, there is this guy, Bob. He shows up and says, hey, Julio, so you're our last hire and this and that. And so, he was in a tie and a white shirt and everything. He started rolling his sleeves out and says, I'm going to help you do this. Okay, fine. Pretty good. Then, we got that done and he went to his duties and then I found out that was the vice president of the company. And that's something that I really impressed me and satisfied me as a person because finally it wasn't a place that is not who is that there is a job to be done and no matter who is going to do it and get the job done and that's it. And you get the job done and go to the next. So I like that pretty much. He was the vice president of the company. He was candid. He was nice. He was educated. He was, so that really impressed me.
Nice. And how long were you there for?
I was there for a couple of years because I was there, but and during the weekend I kept working in the other place until I got a job as a machinist in a company.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working for aerospace. So that's about 3 times the money that I was making. So I just, I think that it was like I'd been here for a year and a half before getting to that job. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. I had to learn it.
Yeah.
But I had gone also to a Polytechnic Institute in Uruguay where they introduced us to the field of construction, electricity, and machine shop. So it wasn't, all new to me. It was just, something that I could deal with. So 3 days after I started, I was trained and I had 2 machines working, one in my front, one on my back, and then after that I worked in there for about 7 years, 8 years, and then those were the times when you were looking for a job and you just get into most of any places and you get a job. and you talk to the foreman or somebody and said, okay, fine. So there was a place across the street that I I went, and it was a Friday. So I asked for the job. And he says, oh yeah, we have positions where what do you know how to do? And I said, oh, I know this and this and this. And this. Okay. He says, okay, fine, come Monday 8 o'clock, we fill out the paperwork and everything, but you start working Monday 8 o'clock. So that was about it. And then from that position that I had, I think that I got like $4 more an hour, and this was like late 1980s.
1980s. I was gonna actually
80s.
ask that. How much was
So
minimum wage at that time?
$4.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was the minimum wage. So when I started on this place, I was making like $15 an hour or something like that.
Oh
So
wow.
so then I went to school, because they were some machines that they were computer controlled. They have so you have to program it and then feed the program into the machine, and the brain of the machine, and the machine knew what to do. You know, there is all sorts of codes for straight movements, circular movements, slanted movements, to make threads, to make this, to make that. Everything takes and the thing is that when you command the machine to go, the machine went. It didn't matter if it was a wall between the position that the machine is and where you commanded the machine to go. Well, the tool of the machine. So it doesn't matter if it was one or two walls, it was going to get through those walls to get where you wanted to do. So it was kind of delicate. The adjustments are very, 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 very small, thinner than a human head. And until finally the parts that I ended up working, it was a $500,000 parts. So, if something goes wrong with that, it's $500,000. It's not
Yeah.
it's not small change.
Yeah, it's not small change at
But
all.
I work as a machinist for about 10 years, and then since I was managing the language a lot better, because I went to college, to the community programs, and
What was the name of the college?
Cerritos College.
Cerritos College. Okay.
Yeah. So I got more proficient in English, and then I took my numerical control programming at Cerritos College too, and I finished that in National Tooling Machinists Association. That's where I got my diploma of programmer in there. And then, since I was communicating a lot better, I decided to come back to the medical field, because the medical field is something that, in order to assess what the ailments are, there is a lot of gray between the black and white, between feeling good or bad. There is a lot in between, and you have to kind of dig it out, and talk to the person. So your communication skills need to be, pretty good. So when I acquired that communication skills, I went back to I got my phlebotomist. Actually, it was a laboratory technician. So besides drawing blood, I could run machines, and I do testing and things like that. So thinking about that, it was a good starting point, to get back into it. So
What year was it when you got your phlebotomy
when I got it was
degree?
1988.
1988.
Yeah, and since then I have been working. My last job, it's at St. Joseph's Hospital, and I work at the blood donor center in there. So we do blood drives, and we collect the units that they're gonna need for transfusion during surgeries, or patients with chemotherapy treatments and things like that.
Yeah. Now, getting into the 90s, what was your struggles? When did you decide to have a family? Have you ever had any interactions with the law here, and how would you compare it?
Uh, the only interaction that I have with the law here is with immigration when I had to renew my green card or things like that. And it's pretty much straightforward. You make an appointment, and everybody that needs to be there for the appointment is at this, at the same time in the same place and on time. So things go pretty well.
Like, I know I've heard of in other countries sometimes, maybe the government is, what we would say crooked or maybe not
Oh well,
straightforward.
yes, yes. Well, and
Is that also how it would be in Uruguay?
yeah, uh, I guess that is part of the European mentality, the European way of doing it. Europe, it was a country that it was very, very hard living in there, you know, pretty early in the time. So people had to survive the only way. So they, like I was telling you, they brought the bad customs and the good customs.
Okay.
But another interesting thing is that, like in Europe, winter comes in the middle of the year. So uh, May, June, July is winter in there, and it snows and it's very cold, and so they eat a lot of foods with a lot of calories, nuts and sweets, and the panettones, and things with dry fruit
Mm-hmm.
in there and things like that. So in Uruguay, summer starts in December.
Oh, wow.
So Christmas in Europe is a very cold place, so they eat a lot of foods with a lot of calories. But then, since they brought their customs with them, uh, Christmas in Uruguay, it's December, it's summer, so it's hot, and they still eating the same kind of foods. A lot of sweets and nuts and this and that. So that caught my attention. How come instead of having fresh food and salad and things like that, they went yeah, but it's that they just were used to. That's the way that they knew.
Uh-huh.
So, and the old people are the worst to change. They don't have a reason to change. They can just keep doing things that they were doing it in their old country.
Yeah. So, do you have any children?
Children, yes, I have two children. I have two daughters.
How
One,
old are they?
Nayeli is the youngest one. It's 24. And then Gabi is my other daughter, and she's like 35.
35?
Something like that, yeah.
How old were you when you had your first child?
Man, how old was I? Probably about 27, 28,
27, 28.
something like that.
Nice. And how old were you when you had your second child?
Well, that was 24 years ago.
Oh, yeah. And I'm not sure if I asked you, did you tell me when your birthday was?
It was, my birthday is April 7th, 1954.
Okay. Your 50s, baby.
Yeah, more of the 60s.
More of the 60s. Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Peace.
Nice, peace. So, growing up in the 60s, let's talk a little bit about that. Do you remember hearing anything about John Kennedy?
Yeah, actually, it was big news when he got killed, right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
He was assassinated.
yeah, he was assassinated.
Okay. There was another crisis going on with the Cuban Missile. Did you hear about that?
They had been crisis you know, when is not one is another one. Either you know or you don't know about it. There is always something going on. You know, the Cold War was at, you know, his highest point. Uh, Technology was developing. Uh, there were a lot of things going on besides music and party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything that you saw different rise when your kids went to school compared to when you went to school?
Oh yeah. The school system is completely different. You know. Um, but the you know, when you got a kid in school, it's another job. You know, you have to take him to school, you have to pick him up from school, you have PTA, you have all the events and things like that. So,
And did you have a car at this time
oh yeah,
when you already had your
yeah.
kids and stuff? Do you remember what car it was?
Uh, when I was taking my kids to school, the first one it was a Ford.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember what model, but I know that it was a Ford.
All right. I wouldn't know. I just know it's a car
Yeah.
or a truck. Excuse me, truck. Right?
No, no, it was a car.
It was a car. Oh, okay,
Oh, it
Ford.
was humongous.
Uh huh.
Yes, it was a Ford Galaxy 500, and it was, I think from the late 70s. Yeah, that was my first car.
Your first car.
Yeah.
What about your second car?
My second car, it was a Ford. I don't remember what model of Ford was it, but I remember the color was red.
Okay. Um, let me ask you this: who do you feel has been a big influence to you while being here in the U.S.?
Wow, there is a lot of people that, you know, technology and the internet and communications are a lot better when they, you know, what they used to be like, I don't know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, because you come from the time when there was like beepers, there were no cell phones,
Yeah,
pay
no, so
phones were
yeah,
around, you know.
yeah, when you were lucky enough to find one that it was working.
Uh,
Yeah, so uh what? Steve Jobs? I mean, there is a lot of people that you could look up to, you know, and see what they did, that they did so well,
mhm.
you know. Um, there is too many people to remember now.
Yeah. What do what
The Beatles.
oh, the Beatles.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah, they definitely influence and change. Um what is there anything when you came here, because you described to me that you guys don't celebrate Halloween, was it awkward or strange for you to see how they celebrated it from dressing up and things like
Yeah.
that?
Well, first of all, I was kind of trying to get the meaning of it.
Mm.
You know, I mean, just about another holiday. But you know, all the kids, you know, are getting candy and things like that, you know, and getting dressed and things like that. It was kind of cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um Now let me ask you this: what what would you do on your birthday in Uruguay, and what did you end up doing on your birthday here when you got to the
Oh, in
U.S.?
Uruguay, well, I had what, like two or three friends, you know, that live around, and uh, we play guitar also with them, things like that. So my birthday or anybody's birthday, you know, we get together, we buy a pizza, a couple of beers, and we didn't get drunk or anything. It's just something to wash down the pizza with instead of water. Uh, and we spent time together, you know, talking and planning for the future or whatever.
So when you came here, how was it? Was it hard for you to find friends? Did you have any friends?
Well, it was because since new country, new customs, you don't know what the people is all about, in their private lives.
Yeah.
Because you have a public life and you have a private life. You know, mostly you need to get it both together so they kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Inside your house, outside of your house, you're the same person. But something that I called my attention is that people told me before, just be careful because you never know who you're talking to. It could be a murderer, it could be a robber, it could be somebody that is mentally unstable or something like that. You know, um, and so that's why the first years I didn't have many friends, but my father already had their circle, their group of friends and things like that. So I kind of mingled with them for a while.
Did your dad continue to live the rest of his life out here in the U.S. or did
Yeah,
he go
yeah,
back?
yeah. No.
He lived the rest of his life out here as well.
Yeah.
And then your
There is
mother.
nothing to go back to. No. What you remember that it was, it's no longer.
Yeah.
Everything has changed. People has changed.
Um.
And usually it's not the place, it's the people.
It's the people.
It's the people that you coexist with that makes your life, colorful.
How do you feel about racism when you first arrived? How you felt about it and how you think it's progressed over the years?
Well,
Was there racism when you got here?
yes, there was. There was, uh, mostly to the African Americans, I think,
Mm-hmm.
than to the Hispanic population. Um,
What type of racism would you see happen? Was it very obvious? Was it name calling? Was it discrimination?
yeah, jokes, bad taste jokes. Like, no, I don't want to say no, but people, they were just, because they were, different than the people that, not originally, because everybody's an immigrant.
Yeah.
The people were born here, but they have been here for the last, couple of 100 years.
Yeah.
Before then, this land belonged to the Indians, to the Native Americans that lived in this.
Yeah.
Then the Spaniards, they said that they discovered America, but
Christopher Columbus.
yeah, well, yeah, but nowadays they have been researching and there is proof that there were people before them, like the Vikings, Chinese, they were already here, even 100 or more years before Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I guess that people are different, and some of them make somebody else's feel that they are more different than they are.
Yeah.
It is. We can talk hours about this.
Oh, feel free. We got time. We have
no,
time.
we don't. It's 48 minutes already. So, racism. They were, people were segregated. They were pushed around. They were called names. They were not welcome as you would be. Personally, myself, I never felt discriminated
No.
against. I don't know if I didn't realize it or I was just so easygoing and so, uh, so candid and open that, people didn't see a reason to tease me or to make me feel bad because I was so, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so authentic, so me,
Yeah.
you know. And so I had a lot of American people that helped me with the language and with some other things, just because they were there and, I needed help or I needed, something and they were happy to provide it to me. And that's something that I admire about this country. It's also okay, fine, there is discrimination or, but, people in here, they're great. They're very helpful. They are very, very nice people.
Do you feel your country was like that as well, or?
No, really, I didn't. I mean, it's just there is an old saying that it says nobody's profit in their own country. They have to go somewhere else.
Oh, really? I
So I
haven't
guess that
heard
that
that
is
one.
true. But I mean, I consider that I have been more successful at managing my life and whatever I want and whatever I like in here that I would, you know, I would be out there, you
Yeah.
know, because there's really no opportunities. No, you graduated from the university in there and still you didn't have a job,
Oh,
and it
really?
would take you a while to get a job, and that is you knew somebody. And now you have to wait until the next president, so to see who their president friends are, and then maybe with among them there is one that
Mm.
and then you might get a job. So, and there is always oh well, the what they call la mordida,
What's?
bribes.
Oh, the bribes. Yeah.
Everything works better if you bribe somebody.
Yeah. Money talks.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in other countries.
Yeah.
I feel like yeah, it's harder to get away with that here in the U.S. It's had its times.
One thing that I have seen that among a lot of other things that have changed, but the situation with the drugs, it has become more out of control now.
What have been the transitions that you've seen from when you first got here to you know?
Maybe it's the people that I did associated before. They were mostly professionals, so there was no conversation about that. There's nothing. I mean, I don't remember opening the newspaper or seeing anything about that either. You know, um,
Also, it was something that wasn't really out in
no,
the
no, it
open.
was just a hippie thing. I think that the worst that 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 I got to heard or know is about marijuana, that they smoke marijuana and this and that, but I had never even heard about heroin or other you know the big caliber drugs. You know
Until you got here to the
until
U.S.
I was living in here for a while, for a few years
Oh,
before I start getting more into, or probably that's part of of your integration to society, to
yeah.
get to know these things, you know but that's something that, and it's not only here in America. I mean, I have seen how from the south of the border, everything had gotten worse and worse and worse and worse, the years. And, uh, you know, South American countries, they have that problem too now. So it's just generalized.
Yeah. Do you do you remember what the crime consequences were in Uruguay compared to the U.S.?
Well, we don't have the death penalty in there. Just jail time.
Just jail time.
Yeah.
You said hippie time. So around Did you ever, any time in between, I don't know if I remember if I asked you this, but any time in between when you had come to the U.S., did you ever go back and visit Uruguay?
No. No. First there were the possibilities. I always had to work hard and, you know, try to make it in here. So, and the only people that mattered to me really was my mother. And if I went to Uruguay, I could spend a couple of weeks there. But if I brought her here, she could spend 3 months, 4 months, whatever she wanted. So it was a lot better to bring her here to get to know the states and take it to the sales and things like that. For me to go there. So I really didn't have any enticement to go there.
Do you regret anything?
Oh, that's a big question. That's a wide. Everything about what?
About what?
About immigrating to the States?
Yes, about immigrating
Not
to
at
the
all.
States.
Not at all. I'm growing happier every day. You know, this is a country that if you have the intelligence and you have the vision to do something, there is no limits.
Do you feel you've succeeded?
Yes. Success depends at what level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, success for me means something, and success for a doctor or a lawyer means something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But being, I think that I only had $20 when no $50 when I came to the States. So I think that you know I I did 3 or 4 times what I could have done in Uruguay. So that to me is a success.
Would you, if you had to leave any words of advice for anybody who wants to immigrate, what would be your advice or piece of knowledge you just want them to know?
Hmm. It's hard. It's very hard. You have to be very determined. I mean, immigrating, you can travel anywhere in the world. Now staying there to work and live and be part of the society, that's the hard part. You know, because you have to erase most of everything if you want to, incorporate yourself to society. It's very simple to come here and to keep doing whatever you did back in your day in your country, but doesn't make any sense because it doesn't fit in here. So you get stuck in here, same as when you were in your country.
Mm-hmm.
You are always stuck if you keep that kind of mentality. You have to grow as a person and as a member of society to accomplish something. Because if not, it's just the same kind of life but in a different place.
In a different place.
I mean, you might have a little bit more, food on your table, but that's all that you're gonna have. And that's not what it's all about.
Yeah. That sounds pretty heavy.
Yeah, it is because once that you're in the water, you gotta do something. You're either swim
Drown.
or drown. So you gotta do it. There is no, you know. I mean, when I don't know about the other people, but when you immigrate, you have a sense of responsibility to yourself that not to do yourself more harm than good. In my case, I knew that it was either do or die. I wasn't going back to the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't going back to there. So if things didn't work out in here, probably I would have gone to someplace else. But I mean, like I told you, the people in here is very nice. Is very helpful, and I love it. I like it.
Traveling to the U.S., does it make you want to travel anywhere else in the world?
Traveling. Every time that you travel, it changes you. It gives you more another view of a place that it was before. It wasn't to your reach. You learn a lot about people. You learn about the countries. You kind of feel it. It's not the same reading in a book that being there and live it. You know, and usually, like by reading a book, you cannot meet the people that you meet when you travel, and that is to me that is the most important things, because buildings and everything, yeah, well, there are marvelous achievements, and you know the pyramids here, here and in Egypt, all those monuments of the people, the people that have lived before us and here, uh, it's I mean it's indescribable. But I guess that meeting the people is what gives you a sense of the culture. It gives you a sense of what really is going on in there.
Yeah.
It's not about the traveling; it's about the people. Everything is about the people.
It's about the people.